property is right here, you know, the last house right there, we just stood on.
Is that gonna go?
That whole vacant property is going.
That bench gone?
Across the street.
No.
Keep happy, M&M, everybody? Merry Christmas,
Side of it,
Would be on the right. You still want to walk through
the Eckerd goes the same way, don't you?
We do. Me and Oprah should be best friends.
This guy bought it, maybe 2015,
I'm okay with mixed though, that's fine.
bought the property.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be, when he bought the property, it was sold by the guy in the first house.
All people who work. And
We
Merry
up
Christmas.
and running?
Yes, we are.
He, when he bought the property, he bought it from that house. That guy's His daughter inherited.
I didn't know if
She
the
lives,
coup
goes
had
to
taken
school
place.
at Texas A&M.
Hey, when
She
you guys,
sold it to
can you copy that resolution for the Outback thing that I can just
He
look at?
ended up selling it to this
When we get to
guy.
that?
Now,
How got you hooked up?
Oh, you got,
Yeah, I know, I did a lot better.
I'll give you mine.
Or just when you confirm that that language is in there about training.
It's enough that you get out of it inside. Yeah, yeah.
Which means yes.
No one else is sitting here next to him, huh?
It's
You're
never,
a risk, yeah, you're a risk.
it's rural,
I didn't.
which is
I offer to shake his
supposed to be
hand, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you doing elbow bump.
Good to see you. Sign some things.
Oh,
I appreciate it. It's like me out.
I used to get one of those in spring time every single year.
Yeah. I never get one. I never get anything like this.
that property's
Movie
probably
in the
the
parks,
best.
movie. Oh,
Back
what
in
are you
the
talking
90s.
about?
I
Yeah.
don't know, there's on the right on Stonewall or Ward
I
Three.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, isn't that right, Ben?
Mm-hmm.
The one's on Stonewall.
Next day,
I,
Keith Road and Stonewall,
I think that is.
I think that's you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. the board just passed it on the right. No.
Right, it's like you do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's good,
Yeah.
pretty sure it is.
That is.
Apparently Farmville Road and 147, all that's eaten up in it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, big time.
Well, it's your show there, pro tem.
Oh, is Ron not coming?
They're in a different meeting.
So we're supposed to wait for them?
That's up to you, you're there for the meeting.
That's okay.
You're being recorded. For the record, I didn't start this. I'm an innocent bystander.
I say when they walk in, I just say, hey, are we ready to go?
Yeah, that's right.
We're adjourned? Okay,
Good
good.
job.
All right, just the, further resolve.
Be it first. Did you see that, will you pass that to Kelly? The be it further resolved.
Thank you.
The last paragraph. Second last paragraph.
Since this is when this vanity on that pop off with something on me.
What would you like?
Get it read?
I still wanna, we're talking to Ron about marketing and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, something we could start looking at.
You can't have it on that.
I can do that.
No.
Yeah, okay. Excellent.
Okay.
I don't wanna let Albert off the hook. For the scenes.
There's all kinds of business in that club.
You got it.
Like,
Did you?
It is, y'all know it was Ron's birthday yesterday.
Yeah, big 5-5 out here.
Forgot to bring the cake, but
55? It's gone. Speed limit.
Huh? No, I was,
This would have been total opportunity to have, like, he comes in later. Oh, it is. So good little song.
Is it too late to slide around the corner?
what do we get? Coffee back?
Maybe. They're never cupcakes.
They have a cupcake.
Connie, okay, have y'all heard from?
Connie and I mean.
I thought that's what we did before.
That's awesome, strong.
Well, we do have a quorum.
I heard Bob could sing.
Is that true?
Like a strangled robin.
And you're a beekeeper?
And
And he does puppets.
just too much.
Okay, that I could have done without knowing.
Oh, yeah, she's producing honey, it's good. She's got,
Mhm.
bunch of flower in her flower beds, and also, I forgot what she's talking about, but she's got two, hives, is that what you call them, 2 or 3 hives, and one of them, they split off.
Uh-huh.
Went off into the tree, she could see from over in the refrigerator, and go over to it.
Yeah.
She's done, it's very tasty. I didn't kill any of it, just didn't know it was gonna box with them.
I got my first harvest of honey last year, and I got 7 gallons out of one night.
It's good.
Yeah. I'll bring you down.
I love some. I love them. Biscuits.
Yeah, some shakes biscuits. Right in my backyard.
She freaked out, and she's in a, she's in Birmingham. But our, honey lab, yeah.
Found
She was scared to death.
I still say what you say. Okay, we're adjourned.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we move to adjourn?
She was able to get it clean.
Mhm.
Through her connection, through her pro connection. It's good. She really likes it. She's actually kind of like expanded into
Connie,
all the things going
Ron.
on here. She's very
Yeah.
creative and always looking to get into stuff. It's pretty cool.
It was my sweeten the deal in my campaign.
Was it?
Yeah, people who
Good honey?
Yeah, people who were hosting sign, I'd drop off a jar of honey. And
That's unique, that's cool.
yeah, it was kind of
Yeah.
good.
Very neat.
I mean, what can you do?
She's kind of a cat lady too, she's got a bunch of cats. And so I think we should, I hate this record, because she's gonna laugh. She has to use your Yeah. Oh, joke with her, she's training an army of cats and bees to attack her, and,
We've only had one incident with the pool guy running down the driveway with a cloud of babies flying. And this blood-curdling yell. So where did you hear about the ceiling?
Kelly Fund.
Y'all in a quartet? Is that what I'm hearing?
A barber shop.
Something about karaoke, I don't know.
There was a show Parsons, right? There was a show
Okay,
Parsons, right?
he's participating in polar plunge. Are you doing polar plunge?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else doing polar plunge? Not heard back.
In my ward, I'm
jazz
obligated
flute,
to
no one knew.
Polar plunge, you gonna jump?
I'm still thinking.
Amy
Okay.
Poehler saw it.
And you're just gonna show up?
Yeah, that's what.
Okay.
Are you
I'll bring my
going
dog.
So you're otherwise committed?
It's got me out of town, but.
No, 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 go out of town. This is okay.
Are you going to dressing?
It's a long weekend, I'm a banker, remember? I'm off Monday.
No, no, it's next week. It's next Saturday.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I thought you meant tomorrow.
We can practice tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have you done it before?
No, I'm not.
It's not gonna be, I don't think it's gonna be super cold.
Are you going to do the dinosaur person?
I will, I think it got destroyed.
Is this got a pump in it?
Yeah, it's got a.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, so moved.
Just thinking. I apologize.
Miss the cake. It was really good.
How you doing, Steve?
Better.
Mine well?
Yeah. I'm alive. I'm doing much better. Put it in the bag. Put it in started, I just wanna make you ready up on it.
Yes, sir.
Before we get started, I just wanna make a few quick comments. First of all, thank y'all for being patient. Tommy and Connie and I just saw a presentation that would be a very unusual and exciting way that we could do this whole Rosa Parks, honoring. And, it would be more of a project. It would be a community-minded project. There's a lot of figuring out to do. But it would be potentially very exciting and hopefully a time we can share that with y'all. Once we got time today, after we get through today, we have time we can talk about it. I wanted to let you guys know you'll probably receive an invitation soon if you haven't received it already, but the Chamber annual meeting is coming up next month. It is the largest gathering of Auburn people that aren't at an athletic event during the year. And I would encourage all of you to make it a priority to be there. The city normally has a table or tables. There'll be an opportunity for you to be there. But I would encourage you to look at your schedule, and I know some of you have work conflicts from time to time. I certainly value that, but do try to be there. It's just a significant event where some people are recognized for the right reasons, and I'll just encourage you to go if you have never been before.
It's February 21st.
February 21st. I wanna just say a couple of quick things and we'll move on. It's not my personal intention as the mayor to try to come to all of your ward meetings. If you want me to be there for a particular reason, I'll be happy to put it on my calendar and try to be there. If you want me to be there to be a part of your program or to speak, I'll be happy to do that. I really believe that it's also your time to talk to the people that you represent. All of you are leaders yourselves. And sometimes when the mayor's there, people deflect the attention that you deserve and they get focused on the mayor being there. So if you want me to be there, I promise you I'll do everything in my power to be there. But it's not my general intention for you to be there. And I appreciate every one of you that are doing that. And I really firmly believe that there'll be value to all that. So just let me know if you want me to be there. Tommy had something the other night that, I don't know, Tommy, I wouldn't call that a ward, that was more of a neighborhood. And Tommy asked me to come, and it was on something that was gonna be on our, agenda that's no longer there. So I went to something Tommy had.
I don't have a board meeting.
Okay.
And twice, twice out of the month.
So, anyway, so if y'all need me to be there, invite me, I'll do everything I can. If you want me to come and speak to something, you can ask me to do it, and I'll do everything I can to do that. And I wanna apologize again, Jim, we need to officially disband the boards and commissions task force. But look, I was so enthusiastic about addressing some of these things in our community that I didn't do the due diligence I needed to do to understand all the rules about task force. And so it put us all in an awkward position, because when two of you got together, you couldn't have your own meeting to even organize what you wanted to do in a meeting, because we had to publicize it and all that kind of stuff, and it just made it a little clumsy. And so I just want all you guys to know I own that. I'm proud of the efforts that we're all putting into this. One of them, the student housing one, is just about to get started, and I promise you that Tommy and Jay will earn their keep as that one progresses through this winter and spring. But for all of you that are doing things, I'm grateful. I thought last night went really well, and I just appreciate the work that you guys are investing. Okay, all right, Jim.
All right, so speaking of disbanding, Mayor, that'll be one of the things you can talk about.
Okay, here it is right there.
Right. And then, under the consent agenda, we have an alcohol beverage license. This is for the, what's it called? Fountain View.
Right, Shell Timber.
Yes. Then, this is our endorsement that the ALDOT was asking us for on the North College Farmville Road roundabout. This will be in there. One of the things that we have put in that resolution is that for the speed limit to be lowered, I think 45 miles an hour.
45, yes.
All right, Brett?
I was gonna ask, so maybe a good idea to pull this out and talk about it.
I agree.
Because it's an endorsement.
I totally agree.
If we
What do
just
you
get
think,
this-
Kevin? This,
I think it's a good idea, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, brings us dollar too.
I mean, if we're endorsing something, we might as well try. I said just through consent.
Yeah,
Normally,
If we're gonna do it, we do it. Worst I can do is say no, you know. It doesn't put the funding in jeopardy, so, I'm all for it.
well, are you all for pulling it off and talking about it, pulling it out
Oh,
of the
yeah,
consent agenda?
sure, yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
so,
I didn't understand the question.
Oh, that's not bad, I didn't explain it well.
So, not on this agenda.
and then, we have some shelving for the library, or the young adult section of the library, that we are purchasing. All of these purchases are budgeted items. We're purchasing some, what's called fire alerting equipment, so when a fire call comes into our 911 center, right now they push a button, a physical button, and the doors raise up on the fire station and alarms go off, and it basically prepares the fire folks to go. We're changing that, so when we get the new fire station, we're changing that system, so this is part of that new system. We're replacing the old system that's antiquated and will not work with our new 911 equipment. So this is the new system. You'll see more of this when the new fire station is ready to have this installed. This is for the fire stations that are 2, 3, and 4. So that's just, so when it says fire alerting equipment, it's not really, it's equipment that will alert the folks in a fire station that they have a call, whether it's a fire or whatever. The same thing with the number 3 is just the installation of that equipment. Number 2 is the purchasing of it, number 3 is the installation of it.
So what we've got now won't work with the existing 911 system?
It works with the existing, but, you know, we few meetings ago, we purchased a new 911
Right.
system.
Okay.
That what we have now won't work with the new 911 system.
But the stations will, the same things will function, the doors will come
The
up.
same thing will
bells and
function.
whistles
Now,
will
also
come
what
off.
this does that the other ones don't do is, this one will also turn off the gas on the stove, it'll do all those things that the old one wouldn't do.
So when they have to leave in a hurry.
So if they're cooking and they have to run out the door, it automatically shuts the gas off so that something's not left on.
This is gonna be on existing, all existing.
It'll be in all prices.
What about the one on campus where since that's not gonna be there long?
That one, it won't be, that's basically fire station 1 for right now. Now, at some point, I expect, as we talked before, that there will be a request by the university that we have a permanent fire station on that.
Nice to know last month when we voted for that 911 system, that it came along with an additional $150,000 bill that we didn't know about until now. You know, somebody may know about that.
Right, I mean, all this was in the budget, all this stuff was discussed, it was in the budget. Now, the particulars of it, I mean, when you show in the budget that fire is going to be, you know, this amount of money is allocated, we may not exactly show that it's because of this and this and that, but it's all in the budget for.
Yeah, and that, you know, that's not really my issue. My issue is we voted for something last month without knowing that by voting for it, we also spent an extra.
It was the catalyst for
$150,000.
something else.
Right. The consequences of that vote would have changed much, I don't imagine, but it would have been nice to know.
Okay, in the, item number 4 is just the renewal of our contract for uniforms for, staff. We have, quite a few departments that the staff are actually uniform, and this just continues that contract. Items 1 through 6 are just normal, easements, right of way, do you have anything to add to those?
No, they're just standard dedication, resolutions.
And number 7, this is a drainage utility easement for I guess there was a redivision of a lot on Wire Road Commercial Park subdivision. So really nothing major about that. On ordinances, we have 4 traffic signs going up there's a stop signs going up in Tuscany Hills. And then item B has been withdrawn, by the applicant because this was a published, item. We have to keep it on the agenda, but we just show that it's withdrawn. Under annexations.
We don't have to have a public hearing on it, though, right?
No, it's withdrawn, so it's.
We made that mistake.
That's just so that if somebody shows up
Just
thinking
think
they've
about
got a
it.
notice, then it'll be evident that it's been.
Answer the prayer.
I've got a little question on that, in terms of the history of the zoning on that corner lot there. Originally, it was proposed to have, a retirement home there.
Correct.
And as a consequence of that application, they did rezone it, right?
Correct.
So, and that's just a normal
And annexed it,
procedure,
we
and annexed it and rezoned it. But procedurally then, after the fact that it wasn't successful, that the project just didn't move forward, the zoning remains the same.
Correct.
There's no reversing that.
Well, not under the current way the zoning ordinance is written. We've looked at that, and Forest is not comfortable just reverting it automatically. Now, as a result of this, Forest has written an amendment to the zoning ordinance, and it has gone to the planning commission that would create a reverter clause in that case.
In that specific case?
No.
In similar cases going forward, but it
Okay.
doesn't impact this particular case. Now, there are some other options that we can pursue, if that's something that council's interested in doing.
Will we see that?
You would have to see.
Pursue for what? This guy here?
Sir?
Pursue what's already done out there on Wire Road? No way to change that, is
Well, yes, there is,
it? Get it back rural residential?
but that would be a conversation in the future.
Yes.
I think what you're asking basically is what we could say was a loophole, because it doesn't often happen that something like this is brought in with the intent to do something, and then the time on doing that something falls through. And then what should happen is that if you said you're gonna build this, you don't build this, then your zoning that was predicated on you building this should also fall through.
Which means there's gotta be a time to that.
Well, the same, yeah, and it's the same as the building, whatever you said you would build. So that's what Forrest is doing, is offering an amendment to the zoning ordinance. The planning commission will look at it, will come to you. Now, it won't affect this property in particular, but it will affect going forward other properties.
And what's it been, 3 years since we took action on that? Was it 3 years?
About 3 years.
Would the property
Yeah.
owner have to request that or be in agreement with the reverting back to the original thing?
No.
No?
No,
There'd be a
no,
condition.
it would be an automatic thing. It would just be codified, it would be part of the ordinance.
And what's this family, this family does not have any options to do that now, is that correct? The family is asking, they had asked for this to be withdrawn.
Well, the family could certainly request that that property be
Rezone rural.
rezoned to rural.
Rezone,
could
so they
certainly-
can ask if they
can
choose
ask.
to.
And,
Just come out and say that.
Yeah, we're not likely to approve that.
Now, this situation I would be for, because I don't think it's gonna be a bad deal, when it fell through.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then we do have an annexation of 59.6 acres located on the south side of Bud Black Road. This was recommended unanimously by planning commission as part of in the boundaries.
What are they bringing to the city by, if we annex them, what's the benefit of it to the city?
What's the benefit to the city of the annexation?
Other than filling in, you know, the.
It's infill, potential, you look at potential revenue if there was development on it.
Biggest benefit I see from it, and I'm not trying to keep really big, but,
That's fine.
I think you get a chance to pull somebody in the city out there where there's that, you bet on it, but you can have have more control of, can't put your other part on, that's on that part, I don't want to sell, but hog farm, or you get a situation like Hackney did, where, you know, I think you avoid that when you bring it in.
I had looked at that on this.
And then item C2 is very similar, it's 11.42 acres, located southeast corner of Stonewall Road and Keith Road. Now, item C3 and item 10A, this is kind of strange. So, C3 is an annexation of 1.77 acres, but it's predicated on the reduction of the corporate limits of 1.77 acres. And the reason this is coming to, it's been through Planning Commission. Planning Commission does not deal with de-annexations, they only deal with annexations. So that's why the Planning Commission did not see the de-annexation, but they knew that this annexation was predicated on the de-annexation. So there is a commercial entity out there that's building, but they want to have a buffer between the residents. And so the residential people are asked for this swap. It wasn't the commercial entity that asked for it, it was the residential people that asked for it. We think this is a good resolution to provide that buffer, to give the residents there what they wanted, and it really doesn't impact us, but it is kind of strange the way this is set up. We wouldn't want to annex this and not de-annex the other one. And we wouldn't want to de-annex the other one and not annex this one.
Okay. So,
You'll see it more clearly, you may have in your packet, but it is kind of strange, but it was an agreement between the citizens and the commercial entity to provide that buffer.
all right, so I'm completely confused, but I'm hoping I get my book, I'll understand when I read it.
It's just a land swap.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, a land swap. You give me this piece of land, and I'll give you this piece of land, but one of the pieces of land is outside of the city, and they don't want to come into the city, and the other piece of land is in the city.
I think it has something to do with an access road too, I thought for the,
Yeah.
land.
Yeah.
Access and buffer, I think it's a one-for-one swap.
The owners, both parties approached me about, a couple months ago, said we would see it at some point.
What's that?
Said the owners of, both participants approached me a couple months ago, and, didn't know whether we finally see it, but it seemed like it makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, there's some graphics in the packet that show everything, but if there's any questions after you get it, just give us a call.
It is very strange because we don't believe this sets any type of precedent for de-annexation. This is a unique situation. Because we wanted to be very careful that this is not considered a precedent for future de-annexations. Then we have conditional use approval, property that's at 336 East Thatch. And I guess there's not really much on that one either.
This was a new place, it's become a house.
It's a house that's there, it's been used for student housing, it's being remodeled, and there's also a back unit, so it's kind of like two units. There's the front unit and the back unit.
I went there, I saw the property and, they showed me the plan. The plan's in place, they're converting it into a house, and back there's the building, and I guess that's, because the building in the back, it's got those two apartments, that's the reason why it's considered a private dormitory. There's nothing else more to that.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. And it's been used for rental, and it'll be continued to be used for rental. I mean, it's the same
Yeah,
purpose.
The plans on it look really nice.
yeah, I thought so.
And it's
too.
on a good scale too, it's not, you've seen some of these things that go 3 stories, 45 feet tall, this is a good scale.
Yeah, I think he said it'd be 25 feet tall,
It looks about
which
right.
is about normal with a house.
And that's pretty much it. So with with that annexation and rezoning removed, we don't have a big agenda.
Were we gonna discuss the Board of Education calendar? Or,
We can,
I mean,
we needed to publicize it, right? That's your,
well, I just want everybody to know
yeah.
when the dates are, so they can put on the calendar if they wish to attend.
Yeah.
And that type of thing, so.
Why don't you go ahead?
So we were looking at, because the Board of Education deadline for applicants is December the 4th at 5 p.m. I mean, not December, I'm skipping ahead. February the 4th. And then that would give the staff time to get us the PDF packet of all the applications on the 5th. And then we have the 5th through basically the 11th. And we were looking at doing interviews, depending on how many we whittle it down to, but having a slate of interviews on Tuesday, the 12th, and then alternate times on Wednesday, the 13th, in case any of those applicants just could not make that first round. And I apologize, I don't have the actual.
The 12th is the.
February the 12th. And the reason for that is that gives us time to have the interviews, and then that gives us time to have discussion if we need to, because then we have a meeting on the 19th, and then we also then need to make the appointment on March the 5th. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I have a question around that, the way that it looks like Tracy would have ended her term by May.
Right.
Correct, so,
We'll
are
talk
we
about
just
this
filling
at the
this?
next meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's
Behind
fine.
on that.
You're good, yeah. So,
What
it's, I believe we all agree it's in our best interest to try to find someone that can replace Tracy's term, fill Tracy's term, and would be seeking a full term.
okay.
So
And then
basically,
what-
we do
How
it
does that
again.
work?
We
They
just
would-
have to do it again.
And we would suspend our rules and not go through the process again in May.
Okay. Okay, I wasn't sure how that would
Yeah,
work.
I'm just throwing this out there. We absolutely sure want to go through these public interviews, these positions.
We,
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
I feel very strongly about it, Tommy.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
What did you say the interview date?
February the 12th, and I believe I have them starting in the afternoon. I'm sorry, I don't have those times, but would
You
you,
said 4, didn't you say 4 o'clock?
starting at 4
4.
p.m. and doing them in 30-minute increments, and I think I established 6 time slots initially. Obviously, it
Yeah,
depends on how
I
many,
didn't see that.
like 4:30. I mean, no, I'm sorry, it
Did
would
you
start.
say that?
But
We can get it.
we can share out the times of those two, of those actual, based off of the applicants and how many finalists we choose. But just to save the time would be the 12th, mid-afternoon, going into 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then 13th, I believe, was like mid-morning hours.
I have a person that's interested in serving on the board. Now, one of the questions, and I was looking at, the qualifications and stuff that came out. And she lives in Auburn, she's an Auburn resident. Okay, so that'll qualify her. But she works for the Opelika school system. Is she wasting her time because is that part of she can't work for the school system, or she just can't, how does that work?
That's a great question, Connie.
I don't think she's wasting her time, but I believe that, and I don't have them in front of me, but I believe the qualifications state that you can't be a current educator, but it may state for the city of Auburn. So, again, I don't have it in front of me, but if she wants to apply, certainly encourage her to apply, but I can't state without seeing all the applicants in front of me based off of qualifications and how we are gonna.
Well, I think the question was.
I think what you're at, because I think that's the key is, it does say you can't be an educator.
Did it say educator or you can't work for them?
No, it's a teacher, I guess, see what,
Oh, okay.
teacher, but I don't know if it says just the city of Auburn or if it means an educator, anywhere.
I will look that up and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Is that fair? Okay.
And
Where will the interview process take place?
Being in here would be great.
Yeah, we can
I
sit
just
down.
wasn't sure.
And it is designed that it's the panel asking the questions and then one-on-one interviews, one person at a time. And then the public is allowed to be in the meetings as an open meeting, but there will not be any interaction between the public and the interview process and the interviewee.
And the questions will be
Provided to them.
provided, and we've got some sample questions, on our preliminary.
Yes, and all, yes, all of y'all will have those questions. Beth and I have been trading some information on that as well, and all you guys will be able to look at that too.
And we've sought counsel from, the school, Dr. Duncan.
All due respect, everybody here, I know that we would be the best at trying to come up
Determine the
with questions for a school board. I'm not Jamie, so.
So here's how we'll do the interviewing. So the official interviewees, these are the official ones that I'm appointing, would be Beth and I and Kelly. As we talked about at the last meeting, any of y'all can come and be a part of the interview process, okay? But at the minimum, it'll be us three, okay? Minimum. But if Connie wants to come, you can come. Jay wants to come, you can come. Y'all can all participate, okay? But we're the official ones that have been designated for this round of interviews.
What would our participation be if we were to come? Is it more just to
So ask a
listen?
question. No, you'll come, ask a question.
But
What-
questions
what-
off the list.
What's-
All right, that's
Yeah.
right, yeah,
Yeah, we don't go off script.
yeah. Right.
But you need to be available for all the candidates.
All
Yes,
candidates.
absolutely.
Also,
You
some
can't,
cases
you
up
can
front.
jive, yeah.
Yeah.
Good point, thank you, Kelly, for bringing that up.
Say that again now, so if we go to one interview, we need
You
to
gotta
really
go
come to all of
them.
them
Yes.
on that same day, February 12th.
12th, and then there's
And
alternate dates on the 13th.
Okay.
So Beth, you'll make this announcement on Tuesday night. To the public, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
And when you get that to me, I didn't see this, it's my phone, but we'll start getting ready to advertise it too.
Yes, okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Anything else, folks?
Jim, I've got a question. I know you guys are very busy. We talked briefly about the possibility of getting a list together of BNBs within.
And
not
so
BNBs,
staff
sorry,
has met
BRB.
with a couple of companies. There is one that I told Penny to go ahead with. It looks like there's one company that can give us what we've asked for. They will mine the data, they will give us an idea of, well, they say they can show us where most, if not all, of the vacation rentals are in Auburn, and how much they're charging, those type of things. They showed us a little example. I don't think it was complete, but there were about 131 that they showed. I might go into vacation rental business. It looked like they were getting like $1,700 or $1,200 a night, $1,100 a night.
But they'll charge us for that data.
Pardon me?
They'll charge us for that data.
So for a year, what we have to do is sign a contract for a year for them. And what they do is they update the data every week, but it's $8,000. But I think that's something that is
What
good.
will you all do with that data? Is it just
Well,
find?
once the committee comes up with their recommendations and goes to the council, and we all pass your ordinance, we'll use that data to collect our taxes. Because those are the people we know that are renting.
And could that data also be utilized if an ordinance is approved for enforcement as well?
Right, yeah, so if we see that, and depending on what the ordinance is, I mean, it hasn't been developed yet,
Sure.
but what it is, that you all agree on, then if we see that, and something was talked about last night was, if a certain property is not, and hasn't come and gotten a license, if that's what we're gonna say, or a permit to have that, then we can go after them and basically shut them down. And I don't know if there'll be any penalty provisions or whatever in the ordinance, but we can actually use that to identify people who are not complying with the rules that we set up. And more importantly, they're flying under the radar. So as one person last night said, they're getting a 13% discount.
Right.
Because they don't have to charge that 13% if they aren't paying those taxes. Right, so.
Thank you.
What are the
But
people,
we hope to get that. Penny is reaching out to them to see as soon as we can sign a contract with them, and we'll get you the data as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you.
one of the folks last night said that Airbnb collects 11%, whereas everybody else collects 13%. She was saying that she has to individually come to the city and pay the extra 2%. I didn't know how valid that was, or if that's a.
Annie tells me that they collect 13%.
Okay, all right.
So, because that was the very first thing I asked, and I said, what about this 11%? She said, no, they.
Okay, great. Just switching gears, our handout on the Board of Education says, is not employed by that city Board of Education.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say
Yeah.
educator overall, it doesn't say Opelika versus Auburn.
So that tells me if a person teaching Opelika, they want to apply for this position.
Yeah.
I would encourage your friend to go check with her, the people she works for, Opelika, and make sure they're okay with that too. That'd be my advice.
But she
to
was
her.
gonna check, but I want to just, you know,
Yeah.
ask the question myself,
That's it.
yeah.
And
I have,
I was just gonna say, if y'all, cause I know there's quite a few, well, they're actually on the fourth, but, you know, the deadline's the 4th at 5, and I know y'all have some board meetings, so you may wanna push that out before, cause that'll be past the deadline on, you know, the board.
I see what you're saying,
applications.
right.
4 o'clock on the.
5 p.m. on
5
the
p.m. on
4th.
the 4th.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mike.
on another note, I wanted to ask the question, just like, in March, I'm going to this conference. How do we know when these conferences, come up? Because I heard it from, I had to hear from Opelika City Council that this conference was coming up, so I came and inquired about it. So I wanted to go, but is there and actually for 2020, I mean, it's all the way out to 2022 to qualify. So I may not even get a motel room at the place because some people already signed up for it last year. So how do we know when these conferences, I mean, what kind of, do we get a listing, do we?
No, it's up to you. We don't normally have council members go to the League of Cities conference. We have had in the past, so if you wanna go, it's up to you to.
I mean, well, just not, just this one, I'm talking about any other that comes in.
You can find them.
Oh, just find them?
Yeah, we don't
Okay.
tell you which ones to go to, or even know, I guess. I mean, from a political perspective, that's in your area, you see which one you wanna go to. As long as they are business related or related to government, then, and as long as we have money in the budget, you haven't spent all your budget money, then you can go.
How do we know how much budget money we have if we wanna go to a conference or?
It's $23,000.
Yeah, about, it's, we can divide it up, we haven't ever done it, but we could divide it up individually, but usually some of y'all don't go to anything.
You can give my share to somebody else, but I can tell you right now, I won't buy one.
So, what we've
Well,
done
see, I
is,
like trainings and conferences and
we have a
stuff,
pot
so
of money,
hey,
called travel and training, but I think it's about 23,000.
Okay.
And we never just divided it up, you get so much, you get so much, you get so much, because it's kind of a sharing thing.
Sure.
And then if somebody wanted to go to something, we didn't have any money, when we come back to the council and say, hey, can we up the budget to let so-and-so go somewhere?
But if anybody's got an interest in a particular topic, we can help guide you towards it.
To something.
For example, the state, through the University of North Alabama, does a planning certificate program where you can go to several day-long sessions and learn about planning and zoning, what the planning commission does, what the board of adjustment does, the legal aspects of planning and zoning. It's about 4 different classes, and you get a certificate in that. I think Beth had looked at that at some point. And
The university here has an economic development certificate program.
there's a number of things. So if you have an interest, just let us know. We'll try to.
We ever really hosting conferences?
We do host a lot of conferences.
That'd be good if you make more money on the same.
Yeah, we host a number
some
of,
student housing when you come.
We have hosted the state,
Okay.
APA, we've hosted
and the
the,
ASUMA.
yeah, we've hosted the finance,
The
the
state finance.
HR people.
We've hosted the regional.
If y'all are interested, I don't know, in audit classes on campus, I've done that a lot over the years. They have classes on Actually, they don't even have a minimum age.
Refuse to be old enough to be.
If you're a member, you can apply, directly to the professor, and, they'll give you the go-ahead, yes or no, and then, you send that email back to, Ollie, and they will register you through the registrar's office as a student. You don't have to write the papers or take the tests, okay? But if there's a subject of interest.
Sure. That's a great idea.
I do, small engine repair,
Really?
agricultural structures, kayaking, swimming, but all those so far, a lot of history classes. Don't run the post.
All right, everybody good? Anything else? Okay. Good. See y'all in a second.
Are we gonna do these on every other Friday, or every other session will be? at 4
Yeah,
o'clock?
so we're trying to help Connie.
That's fine.
Yeah, so the first one's gonna be at noon, and the second one will be at 4.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's going to mail.
Thank you so much.
Just said 12, because even Kevin, I couldn't find